Okay, welcome everybody to the Solr knowledge transfer. We're doing this mainly to transfer knowledge about Solr and the use of Solr within the language engineering team for the benefit of the Translate extension. But since we were doing it anyway, we also invited some other people. So welcome Jens, Max, and Ori. If you have any questions, please ask them. This meeting is time boxed to 1 hour. Once that hour is reached, we hope to have reached our objective. I want to ask you to mute your microphone to reduce background noises, and I will make this session available to everyone after it's completed. So the floor is yours, Niklas. Tell us all about Solr.
Well, not all, but something. There's Etherpad, and feel free to follow and add notes to there too. Let me paste the link too. So to be sure that we are on the same page, does everyone know that what is Solr and Solarium? And Lucene, perhaps. So Lucene is a kind of search engine library, and Solr is one front end to it. And Solarium is a PHP library we use to connect from PHP to the Solr service. And I've been using Solr because I need it for translation memory and also for the new search features in the Translate extension. So if you have already installed Translate and Solarium in the Etherpad, there's an example config you can use to enable the use of Solr in Translate extension. And yeah, so if you have any problems using the config, please let me know. And of course, if you have already installed Solr, you can use your own service by replacing the host with localhost or something else. Yeah, so let me also read the chat. Yeah, I think everybody loves Solr, at least me. So let me show a little bit how it's used in Translate. So there's also links in the Etherpad. And I'm also showing it on my screen. I hope you can see it, yes. So this is the new translation search page of Translate. And it's still in work in progress, but you can search for words or strings, and the idea is that you can search for mistakes or some terms, and then you can easily correct those with quick access to Translation Editor, or perhaps try to find some existing translations while we don't have the glossary feature in Translate extension. And well, it's a bit a long story how we got here, but first we used to have translation memory in SQLite, and then we ported it to MySQL, and because that was not good enough for the foundation use in production, we eventually ended up using Solr. And now we are using the same Solr also for search, and we are using the same schema. And Solr is pretty nice because we can do facets, which you can see on the right hand side. So we can limit the results by language or message group. And other nice things like highlighting the matches and just being fast enough for search and translation memory. So the translation memory is basically a thing that is used to retrieve existing translations for when user is translating something that looks like something that has been translated before. And in transit extension, it's shown in the translation editor, but there's also API mode 2 for using that data. And that's pretty much what we've used Solr for. And it looks like Solr is getting some more users in the foundation, like Laxström has been working with geolocation, I think, and Wikidata is also interested. So you might already be familiar with the Solr admin interface. So this is the dashboard of Solr 4.1, and Wikimedia Foundation is still using 3.6, which is a bit different, like this. But essentially the things you can do, they are the same.
So it is already broken?
Yeah, there's some warnings in above, but it doesn't actually break anything. I think it was still testing. If you refer to the red box.
No. I tried to initialize it in some other place, so that might be someone else. Yeah.
As far as I know, nothing is broken except those warnings, so we are still fine. Anyway, the admin interface provides some statistics and logging and other useful information that helps with debugging problems. And of course you can access the actual database. In this case we only have one, and you can, for example, do queries on it. Search everything that has been marked as being Finnish. So you get to see what kind of fields we actually store in Solr. So you probably already know that the things we store in Solr are called documents, and they have fields. And those fields are specified in the schema. And for translate, we are using a very simple one. So the basic thing, of course, is that we are storing each and every translation as a separate document, and there's a field for the actual text that can be used for searching. And we are also storing the text as plain string for the translation summary use case, and in a more processed format that is fast for searching. And for the facets we are storing the language and the message group belongs to. And then there's some identification fields too that can be used to fetch or delete or update some particle messages when the content in the wiki changes. And Lucene and Solr has various kinds of tokenizations, which means that the text that is stored is split into words and it can be stemmed, and all kind of stuff can be made to make the search better, but in this case I'm only using a format that only splits the words, because stemming and that kind of stuff is language dependent, and it's not, this way it's not possible to have the tokenization depend on the language, because we are using the single field for our languages, or rather regardless of the language. Yeah, in the beginning we are defining types and the analyzed or tokenizers. And there's really a lot about writing the schemas, and I can't say I'm expert in it, so this is what I have come up with, some help from Max and Peter, which is the person cheaper knows. Yeah, so that's the schema. Yeah, and there's lots of other things in the admin interface I haven't really used. And one of the things is the configuration for the Solr itself, for the translate extension schema. Well, configuration schema is somewhat related for translate extension. I have not done any changes to the actual Solr configuration, but I have been told that we could improve performance by doing some changes there. That's something I have not done yet. So I don't know, maybe you have more experience with that. I think that, didn't you, Maxim, at least make a config that supports multiple cores?
Max, how are you treating performance optimization at the moment? Because I think you have 3 to 5 Solr servers at the moment.
I have 6.
Okay. And have you been looking into tuning them at all yet?
Well, it's all deployed and used, but actually, since we haven't done the public announcement of this extension, it gets almost no traffic. Well, maybe no traffic at all, because when graphs are at 0, you can't really tell. Maybe there is a couple of requests per second because it's nothing. So currently we use only one core, but I already encountered a situation where
6 servers with multiple, like they probably have 12 or 16 cores, and you're only using one.
No, I use core in the Solr meaning of this term, which is roughly equivalent to MySQL database.
Oh, okay. One index.
Yeah. So Solr appears to use multiple CPU cores to solve this Solr core, so it's not a problem.
Have you done anything for like delayed indexing, so that multiple updates are joined? There are automatic index optimizations that can heavily influence performance if they are run at times at your busiest times. That kind of stuff. Have you looked at it at all, or is it like almost a default installation from a memory and from a memory perspective?
I haven't played around with Solr settings. However, I played around with the modes I index it. So initially I planned to update it with a cron job. Then I decided, nah, I can do it better, and made it update using job queue. When it was only used on the English Wikipedia, it was fine. The index got updated in a matter of seconds. However, when other wikis decided to use it, I quickly discovered that simultaneous updates of the same core are really bad, and lock contention locks the whole instance of Solr.
Yeah, so what you can use is you can enable auto commit feature, which allows you to like have a batch of updates before it's actually committed to the index, and that reduces the lack of availability during updates, because there are actually like fewer commits to the index because of the larger batch sizes.
Due to my scale, it appears that using auto commit only will result in how can I tell it, in a serious increase in memory usage, because I commit a lot. So
can you define a lot?
Hundreds of thousands document updates per hour.
Really? That many? Okay.
Yeah, I think I could optimize it to update more careful when the document gets edited. But so far, it is so.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
At least that's what it's at its peak. For example, when someone edits a popular template.
Yeah, okay, that's the main issue. So on every cache refresh, you also update your geodata.
In principle, it tries to avoid it, but I think there might be some bug.
Okay, so in theory, you could query first and only update if it differs or something.
It already does that on MySQL side, because we simply feed stuff from MySQL to Solr.
Mm-hmm. And still that many updates? Okay. That sounds weird. Because I guess usually your geo coordinates don't change when you update the template, or does it? Or do they?
Anyway, imagine a vandal wanting a page. First, all the coordinates get deleted, then they reappear.
Mm-hmm.
So even coordinates change.
Yeah. Okay, Niklas, sorry for the interruption.
I don't know. It's somewhat interesting because at least I'm lacking a bit of skill, like configuring the Solr itself to make it optimal. So if someone knows or learns, it would be.
I think that the base configuration file where you can change all of those settings, they have fairly elaborate documentation, and there's also like the wiki that has a lot of additional information. So even though it might take you a day to invest to get some solid knowledge, or within a few hours, you should be able to get a pretty good understanding of what it is you can do.
or you may think that you have a good understanding, but Solr will prove you wrong.
Well, yeah.
From my experience, the Solr wiki is pretty useless. At least if it comes to describing Solr configuration settings, and the configuration file itself is the most complete source of information, and that sucks.
Yep.
At least if compared to Sphinx, which actually has a very good and very structured documentation.
Yeah, so I think I continue now. So that has been a bit of general about Solr and how we use it in Translate. So I was planning to present how we get the translation from the wiki to the Solr database. So after the Solr has been configured, there's a script called ttmsolr-export in Translate. Which can be used to load all the message groups and all the translations from them and push them in patches to the Solr with Solarium. And yeah, it pretty much just creates the documents with the fields and something like 50 at a time to make it a little bit faster. Sorry about the noise. The script supports using multiple threads, but in my experience, if I use more than 2 threads, I get weird errors from ZT or Solarium, something like it's been mixing through the 2 posts together so that the text is mingled or something. It's just very weird, but I haven't been able to find out why. So for now, I usually build it with using 2 threads, which is better than 1 because there's lots of waiting while it loads all the translation database, and the other thread can still push data into Solr.
Now I'm gonna shock you. I post stuff 5,000 items a time.
Yeah, if you mean how many documents you want to add at once, yeah, it can be tweaked. Yeah, so I haven't had problems with the size of the batches, but more about the concurrency, and I don't know why.
I would like to get back to that point. Is there actually a way to limit the number of documents that you get back in a query?
Yes, you can, of course.
Yes.
No.
Well, the URLs you use for search have. Let me take a look at it.
Jens, do you mean using Solarium or just in a query URL?
I don't mind. I would think that there is something to put in a query to limit the number of documents that you get. But yeah, in the first search, I didn't find any.
Have you looked at the Solr examples? Because Solarium, I mean, examples, they cover everything.
Okay. Maybe I should revisit that, but I was kind of intrigued by the fact that there was no obvious parameter like limit equals number or something like that.
think it's pretty obvious. At least it was for me.
Jens, I'm checking docs. I'm coming back with the URL.
Niklas, and how long does it takes you to fully reindex your translation memory if Solr was empty initially?
It depends a little bit how up to date my caches are at the translate extension, but I think it was something like half an hour.
And you have something like 2 million documents.
Yes.
Well, actually, I have 4 million documents, and it takes approximately the same. I have an impression that it all depends heavily on full text search, and since I don't use full text search at all, and your documents are very short, that's why we actually can afford so fast updates.
Yeah. The answer is in the chat.
Yeah, so I don't think the speed is limited by Solr. It's more about loading them from MySQL and processing it in correct format. Yeah, so after the initial bootstrap, there has to be a way to keep the database up to date. So I have listed some cases in the documentation page, but it is pretty simple that if there's like new translation or new source message, we just immediately send the new document to the Solr. If there's updated translation, we just delete the old translation for that and then send the new one. And there's some corner cases, like if translation is marked as outdated, then we only remove the translation to Solr. And in some cases the messages go out of use, so to say. In that case we delete the existing document and create a new one which is not attached to any message groups. We have to still keep them around in case they are useful for the translation memory. And I think there was also when translation is deleted, it also deleted from the Solr. And that's over pretty much every case there is about changing translations or the message documents and message source text. And yes, most of this happens right after the save is complete, so we use hooks to get into that and just send it right away without waiting for any patches or things like that. I'm not using the job queue even. Yeah, so I could also talk a little bit about the special needs of the translation memory. So for the translation memory, we need to find strings that are almost the same and sort them about, well, how same they are. So in other words, we are using something called edit distance, and right now we are using the Levenstein edit distance algorithm. And if if you are not familiar with it, there's a link in the etherpad to Wikipedia. But the basic thing is that if you add one letter, it's distance 1. If you change one, it's still 1, and if you delete one, it's 1. And if there's more like there's more of these changes combined, the distance increases.
And that is what makes your Solr server melt down.
Yes. So I think it's exponential algorithm because it needs to compare it against many strings, and it gets very slow when the string length increases. So there has been some optimizations like to check that if the strings differ very much in the length, we don't even bother. And something like if the word count is similar and stuff like that, but now I just leave it to the Solr, and it's many times faster than what I had in PHP side, but it still can be slow for long strings. And the nice thing with Solr is that we also get the documents sorted by the edit distance. We use the score field is the value we can use, and so we actually don't need to sort them on the client side. But because we are matching against the message definition, we have to make another query that fetches all the translations matching those definitions. So for translation memory, we're actually making 2 queries to get some data for the translator. And the second query is just give me these documents with this and that ID, which might not exist. So we need to query some more than we are expecting to get enough results. And possibly in the future I am going to think about if there's alternative ways to find good matches. In Solr there's different edit distance methods like n-grams and livested and something else that could be tried out. And well, even after all testings, the translation memory is pretty stupid. The string has to match quite closely. So before it finds a match. So if there's like 2 strings, find a book and open a window, then it can't use the different the words from it if you are string like open a book, because book and window is so different, even though the word open is the same and already translated. So actually to get more data out of the existing translations, we would need to go more to the machine translation side, which can pick up smaller parts of the translations, but it also have to handle things like grammar, articles, plural, and things like that. So it gets very complicated very easily. And for now, we are just using external services like Microsoft Translator or Yandex translator services to do actual machine translation.
And we hope that Google will sponsor us for Google Translate API v2, but they're being difficult at the moment.
Yeah. And they will always have more data than we have, so it's not very useful for us to try to do the same. Yeah, and there's also one service called Apertium, which does machine translation between similar languages with rules. Just to mention it. So the actual code in translate extension is under the TTM server directory. Most in the Solr TTM server class.
So, Jens, for your information, this of course might help you heavily because it compiles queries using Solarium.
Yeah, so if you're interested, you can see how the queries are done and handled. Yeah, this was the code. Bootstrap and update the index and stuff like that. It's probably not worth going over in great detail. Except for maybe who needs to write tests for this. Let me see. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I have from the translate side. If you have some updates like what you have doing with Solr, I would be interested. So I already mentioned that I know that Laxström has been working with the geolocation of articles, and Wikidata is probably interested. Stemment and MediaWiki has a Solr store, but the general Solr extension as search backend for MediaWiki seems to be missing.
Okay. Niklas, this language modules you mentioned, it is Lucene language modules, if I understand correctly, right? Or Solr has their own language modules?
No, it's from Lucene project.
Okay, I can speak a couple of words of mine. I actually don't use any full text search capabilities, so it's only parametrical search and mostly spatial. Works fine for me. Also, I have a little cluster at my disposal, so
I'm envious. I only have a single machine, which I don't even have access to.
well, I also don't have access to my cluster, but it still works. So I use replication, and it actually appears to work. Didn't expect it to, at least to be that much stable. Anyone has any questions?
Yeah, the actual configuration we use are in the operations puppets repository. There's support for using different schemas for different purposes and things like that.
No, currently what we have in operations Puppet assumes, well, first of all, it assumes that there is only one core. Second, I worked on multi-core support for it. It's actually hanging around in review queues. Some were however, even it also assumes that all the cores are identical in their configuration. That is, if we want to share a server between geodata and translate memory, we will have to work on adding further support for non-analytical configuration.
Right. So we can like have these small different schemas on different machines, but when we want to make it scale or use together, then we need to work more, right?
Yes.
And then there's also the updating of Solr and Solr Math, right? But right now it's not blocking anything.
Excuse me. It's not what?
It's not blocking anything from
Yeah.
working.
So I've already been approached by the Wikidata guys. They wanted to take a few of my precious servers from me.
Yeah, I read that.
So while sharing is possible, we need to work on adding support for it. Also, Sibrand asked me about monitoring, so I can tell you that monitoring still doesn't work. That is, Nagios sees there is a problem, however, the service is still marked as okay. And I'm afraid it will take a concentrated assault on ops to make it resolved in any reasonable time, because debugging Nagios with our Puppet is terrible.
Yeah. Ops.
Maybe if someone knows if there is an operations engineer who is more intimately familiar with Nagios than Peter Jan-Meister.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's very hard to get priority for anything with ops. Or you have to do it yourself, like Ori. But you have to be in the San Francisco office to even get access to the people. Very hard to approach. Peter Jongmeister is willing, but yeah, I'm pretty unhappy with how that works at the moment.
Yes, ops are overstretched. So
and I'm very aware that this presentation will be viewable to anyone.
So the trick is that Peter Jan-Meister didn't quite volunteer for it. He just noticed that Ariel merged my monitoring changes, asked me to change it, and then I asked him, but can we check if it actually works? And he got caught.
Yeah, if I Google for Solr and Nagios, I find some 10 links. I assume you've checked them all and none of them worked, and you had to adapt something that you found that seemed right, I guess. Or how did you do it?
I used existing services as an example.
Yeah.
So currently, outside of my remit, I need access to servers to find out what's going on wrong. So it's entirely an ops area. Also, I have a Mingle card for more advanced solar monitoring.
Yeah, I guess you want to know QPS and that kind of stuff.
No, not even QPS, but I would like to monitor if geodata actually returns results set on English Wikipedia,
Oh, but that is the easy one, because that basically means that you have to wrap a query into some kind of shell script and then output some number with that shell script. That's fairly easy.
Yeah, but another part which is supposed to monitor replication is much more complicated.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so whenever you go into like an actual internal, then it becomes harder. Yeah, well, this discussion may even be moved, because you are like a mobile engineer and you're doing search now, and there's no one who can even serve a search within platform engineering or within ops. So it's all stuff that shouldn't be part of our job, and is definitely not part of our job description.
Yeah, in principle, we software developers aren't even supposed to write Puppet, but since for ops to write every change to Puppet themselves, it would require thrice as many ops. We have to do it ourselves.
You mean according to ops? Yeah, well, I hear that.
Let's be realistic.
I am not even able to assess. So the only thing that I can do, yes, I hear that is being said, Max. I have no idea if it is.
And from the latest news, the opening for Lucene search engineer in ops has been converted to Lucene search developer in platform team.
I know. The Peter that Niklas told about, he was interviewed by 3 people from the Wikimedia Foundation, all before Christmas, and he hasn't heard back from Wikimedia until this day.
Who?
This Dutch guy that has talked with Patrick Riley, he's talked with David Schoonover, he's talked with Peter. They've all had their talks, and the Wikimedia Foundation, the management of the Wikimedia Foundation is not telling the people that come to apply for a job what the status of their job application is after 3 weeks. It's an abomination. It's bad. This is bad for our reputation as an awesome thing to work for. And that makes me feel bad, and it makes me not want to recommend Wikimedia to my friends, because yeah, they are my friends. I want the best for them, and I don't want them to wait for 3 weeks to hear something after having 3 discussions.
Well,
that's my current experience.
Might be different, but from my experience, when I knew I was going to visit the United States for the first time, I sent my CV to the foundation. I didn't hear back from them, but then at the office I was simply approached by Lalita, who told me, let's go have an interview. That was a bit shocking.
Yeah, I guess I should stop commenting. It's going to be public after all. We have about 10 minutes left, as Sampush points out. Is there anything that we need to discuss in the last 10 minutes that pertains to Solr usage within the Wikimedia Foundation?
What I was asking is, why are you guys pushing for Solr 4? Does it have any special feature that you would like to use?
It's supposed to be faster and better and spiffier and whatever.
However, it has more zeros at the end. Do you know what it means?
More bugs.
It would allow Wikidata to use half of your cluster without impacting your performance.
In theory.
In theory, yeah, sure.
And
Okay, I mean, let me approach it from like a generic continuity perspective. Then you should regularly invest time in updating your stuff to the latest version. Otherwise, you will get stuck with a Lucene cluster that's 5 years old and no one knows anything about. Maybe that's how I should illustrate it.
So I have two concerns. First is that you will need to build a Debian package for it because Ubuntu's packages are dreadfully outdated. And the second, Solr 4 has absolutely different replication scheme.
Phaedon already had to write a Debian package when Niklas needed Solr, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah.
And that package was buggy.
Yeah, software has bugs. I mean, obviously, we're not going to use it without testing it. It's stuff that we do. It has to be done at some point.
That replication is different and it will require some changes. Also, I'm not entirely sure I like how it works in Solr 4. From a theoretical perspective, I haven't seen it in action.
So there's a few options. We stick with Solr, or we can look at another search product. Not sure if that will make us happy, but at least it's an option. A third option always is to do nothing, but doing nothing means that you get stuck heavily in 5 years.
You mean Elastic?
I hear a lot of good things about Elasticsearch, especially from the setup point. It doesn't know schema and makes things a lot easier. I think Niklas has expressed some interest in.
Out of my head, if there is no schema, it simply has to work slower.
Yeah, I agree with Ori. Setup is a one-time cost. But if you change your schema, for example, Ori, then you have to rebuild your indexes. And if you don't have a schema, then those kinds of things, you could be more agile in those areas. I'm also talking theoretically, of course.
Yeah, I have only heard about Elasticsearch from many places, but I'm a bit skeptic whether it can support the transition memory use case like
Right.
Solr does.
Okay, because you need those things for your facets.
Not facets, but edit distance as memory.
Sure.
Yeah, and also from the user experience perspective, the use of facets helps a lot in the sense that allowing the user to filter after providing search makes him not to worry about where to which search space to use. I mean, if I'm looking, for example, for a typo in Hindi and I type the word in Hindi which is not properly spelled, I will probably find the correct result easily without specifying that I'm looking in Hindi or on a specific project. And then if I get too many results, I can filter afterwards. But we are not pushing all this effort up front. And I think that's an interesting requirement. I don't know if Elasticsearch or other solutions provide it, but Solr seems to work well with that.
Yeah, I think the facets come from Lucene, so it's probably pretty much similar across the different front ends.
Okay, I guess that was it. Thanks, everybody.
But we still have 4 minutes.
Well, sometimes it's a good thing to complete a meeting before the next one is starting. Max is into beer. It's excellent. Now we just need some vodka and we have a party. Thanks, everybody. I hope it was useful. Jens, Ori, Max, Federico, do you guys have any suggestions for improvements or anything? This is like the first time we allow extra people into a session like this, and at least from my experience, it was a good thing.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. It was nice meeting you guys, and I can only expect that we will keep in touch over the next few weeks.
Thanks, Jens. Anyone else?
If someone's interested in monitoring, I guess we will have to do it on labs, where it allegedly can be faster to debug because there will be less nodes in this monitoring.
Cool.
But it requires someone who knows how this shit works.
Doesn't it always? Anyway, cheers. Corey, good night. And talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.